This is genius.
This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to the Gritty Bowmen.
I've never seen so many mullets in my life.
No, it's just about feeling good.
You had more chins than a Chinese phone book for a while.
Man.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah. I mean, he's right. He said, "Goonies never say die." We're going.
We got this.
All right.
I was pulling the trigger, but the safety was on.
I just Randy Black Eagle.
That's it. Boom.
That's my.
That's how we roll. Just drop the mic and walk away.
I want to find the animal, right? And so if a shot has been made ethically and legally, I just want to find the animal. Like if I can have a tool, whether that's a dog that would blood trail an animal, or a piece of technology, for personally, I'm okay with that because I just want to find the animal.
And then all of a sudden we started to get into some timber, and boom, he was piled up under timber. If we had never found
that arrow,
I thought
broken
about
arrow.
That. Like breadcrumb, it's so creative.
You love it,
but like
you love it. I just want to find the animal, right? Because especially out west, early archery season, which this technology would be in play, a lot of that. You have the heat factor, right? For me, like there's a time frame to be able to retrieve the meat. I don't care about the antlers near as much as I care about retrieving of the meat.
Yeah.
Right, and there's a window there, and when it gets hot out, that window gets short,
fast.
and that's the worst feeling.
To
not be able to find it, or to find it maybe a week later.
Well, you can use and abuse just about any product. And I think that's where, when you start injecting your opinion on technology, you're imposing your experience and the experience you want to have on your hunt on someone else.
So like someone.
That's when I get all pissed off.
Yeah, like somebody.
All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Bowmen podcast. I'm here with Brandon Bates and Casey Harbertson from Mountain Ops. And Brandon, what are you from?
I mean,
You're kind of like,
we don't have enough battery
You're
life.
like PBR. Rocky
Mountain.
Mountain.
We don't have enough battery life.
many
I'm
jobs
still
do
in
you
this
have, dude?
massive identity crisis right now. It's like I've been like the voice of the PBR for 15 years, and that's been a great gig. Probably the one I'm most passionate about is the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. The team elk space. I've been there for quite a while now, and just. Love the outdoor space. Love the conservation movement and the things that those guys do over there, and that's probably for me, where my passion lies in business owner. We have a new outdoor company. I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later that we started that just launched a few weeks ago, in fact, and. So lots of irons in the fire at 38. I like Casey and those guys they're younger and more successful.
It's all
so like
about,
I had to get like 4 or 5 jobs so I could
I was gonna say there's.
Because what are you 34?
It's all about the
31,
adventure,
31,
though,
31,
Brandon.
31.
You got to live the adventure.
I'm just impressed at how fast you were able to spit that out, because usually you've got about 6 other things you're doing.
Well, I didn't. Yeah,
so
I didn't
you've
talk
condensed
about
it down to 3. So.
I didn't talk about the sports agency.
I was gonna say, dude, there's like 10 other things I know about that you're doing right now.
I didn't even. I'm like, we're just going to skip over some stuff. So anyway,
Cool.
but let's just call it, Army of Team Elk. I mean, that's probably where I'm probably,
most people
in
know
the
you.
outdoor space would probably be, or arguably PBR would probably be where most people know me. Brian would nod his head. He said,
I would agree. Yeah.
You're not that well known in the outdoors. You're the rodeo guy.
Well, and we're
Go
here
kid yourself.
with Brian McElrea, B-Mac, from Hushin.
Yes, sir.
And we are at the Total Archery Challenge in Snowbird, Utah. And we shot lights out today.
We did do good, Brian.
Didn't we?
You shot great.
You did too.
Shark
Not
great.
as good as
you
you.
guys, you should make out. I didn't get here until like 1:30, 2 o'clock. Before we get into anything that matters,
Well,
I want to tell a quick story real quick.
okay, but
because
wait.
it's an inside story
All
that
right,
you don't
fine.
know about. You don't know about. Only me and Brian knows about. Brian, this is going to.
You got to
like
call
the,
him B-Mac,
it's
or
gonna
people
sound
are
like the-
people won't know.
It's going to sound like the dating game. Tell everybody about the night we met. So everybody.
This is exciting. Does
That
anybody
just
have a
sounds-
candle we can
I
light?
know,
Yeah,
but
seriously,
it's so good. It's such a good tell.
Tell
You
them
should tell
about-
it like it really happened.
Like it really happened?
Like it really happened. Tell them the truth.
Tell them about the night we met.
It's so ridiculous, right?
But so me and Brian, before we preface, I'm going to preface this story.
B-Mac.
B-Mac. This is before there is a B-Mac. This is before Hush
Okay.
exists. This
There's
is
still not much of a B-Mac.
I'm just saying there. This is before anybody even knows who he is. Like, there's not the Hushing guys. There's not 100,000 plus YouTube subscribers. There's not all that got going on. This
Okay.
is just two guys, and this one,
Yeah, I met Bates at the Sportsman's Choice Award in Vegas, and I had won a trip randomly through the Sportsman's Channel.
Mm-hmm.
So I was there hanging out with Randy Newberg.
Yeah.
Was there. He invited me to come along with him.
Yeah.
And there's this guy standing in the corner just looking super grumpy. and I walk over there, and, man, he was just the most sarcastic human I've ever been introduced to in my life. And he come to find out he's part of the Army FT Milk and PBR and all this stuff. Anyways, he invited me to come out to PBR. He was actually going to be in Portland like a couple weeks later. So that's how I met this guy. And now, ironically, several years later, he's living in Utah.
Yeah,
and we're buddies.
Yeah, so
Somewhat.
when he says the more sarcastic, it's like I have this. I'm just gonna say it. Like I have this massive disdain for narcissism and like, look at me, how cool I am, like thing, and like. I don't know. There's
That's
like
modern world
at the
today, like
award
social
shows, like
media.
at the award shows, it's just like a platform for me to have like one too many beers and just smack talk.
It's basically in a roast from the back
It is
row.
a roast in the back row.
Yeah, I didn't include all the details.
I know. That's what I was trying to say. You left it out. But so anyway, so my point being is B-Mac and I go back a long, long ways because we met randomly whenever I was making fun of people.
Nice. Yeah,
It has changed.
I had you on the podcast a year over a year ago.
Yeah.
And that was awesome at
was a good
this
one.
event.
It was at this event.
We sat down with Hush and did a podcast, and then I did one with you, Brandon, in Easton. First time I failed to push the record button, which that was podcast gold. Some of the funniest moments.
That wasn't like Luke Bryan walked by. We're talking about asking him if he like where to get his chick's jeans from. And,
They're skinny,
it was
dude.
Like Luke Bryan's walking by, and we're like, "Oh, I'm glad your wife let you borrow your jeans." And like we have this good stuff, and Easton dragged, and we finally got Easton like kind of.
So was like
up.
Willie.
Yeah.
And the whole
the
Duck
Robertsons,
Dynasty
yeah.
crew, like they had like bodyguards trailing them. It
Yeah.
was just a little strange.
But
So,
anyway,
but that was good. That was good. It was good time hanging out with you there. And on today's episode of Gritty Bowmen, we want to talk about something came up. Brandon laid earlier this week, and Brandon's got some cool news, but something came up where technology gets brought up, and Aaron and I have done a few podcasts on technology and hunting, where to draw the line and stuff like that. And we've kind of shared our opinion on this before, but I wanted a panel of guys on here to kind of talk about this subject. And I find it fascinating because technology is not going away. It just keeps getting, it's just every year, every month, it's just changing right before our eyes.
Right.
And it's a cool time. I remember the first time I walked into an Apple TV store, like an Apple store, and they had a phone that could connect to the internet. And I was like, this is not real. This cannot be real. And I remember looking up, I had a video I made that I had posted to YouTube, and I went and looked it up on YouTube and watched my own show on a mobile phone. I was like, mind blown.
You're like the double rainbow guy.
And I'm like, oh my gosh! What does that mean? What does it mean? And now it's like, it's old hat. It's everywhere. I mean, things change all the time. And it does impact the hunting world as well, because new technologies are coming out all the time. Think about this. Life before trail cams.
Oh, I was telling my wife about this the other day because I was like, I don't know, I know you guys all know my wife, but some of you, but like she's my wife and I, we are literally yin and yang. She's like, she's not a vegetarian. She loves elk meat and whatnot, but she's a health fitness nut, yoga teacher. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like super
Yeah.
chill. So I was trying to explain to her like how trail cameras work and like how that thing goes, and I was like, back in the day, like I remember the first trail camera I could order from Cabela's, it literally had a string like running across. You know what I mean? Like you set it up on the trail, and like the animal had to come trip over that
Tripwire.
string.
I remember my dad had one, and the battery on the thing was like the size of a car battery.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
I still
what
have
that's
one of
called,
those.
but ridiculous, And now they're running on double A's and just
double A's for 6 months and taking 7,000 pictures and HD 4K video.
Well, that's what I was going to say is now they're like Stealth Cam has the 4Ks, and I've seen some guys post some stuff on social with the 4Ks, and it's like,
crazy.
Oh, dude, it's insane. Yeah.
So how do you think trail cameras have changed the hunting world?
Oh my gosh! I mean, it's not even a question. I mean, from a whitetail standpoint, I mean, the Western game is a little bit different. You know what I mean? Not so much with mule deer in the fact that they have summer range, they have winter range, they have rut range. I mean, they typically will. They're kind of a territorial animal. Elk, as we know, they're a migratory animal. But a whitetail, once you pinpoint him at night and and you see that scrape he's hitting and that spot he's hitting and what he's doing, that trail cam is the difference maker. I mean, you ask Lee Lukoski, ask the juries, tell me about your trail cam pictures. What's the difference? Take them away from their deal and it's a whole different ballgame.
I would say for Western hunting, I mean, for example, one of the units that I'll be hunting this year, it's a plateau. The only way to scout it is boots on the ground. And so for years and years and years, and basically since the beginning of time that guys have been hunting this unit, it's been boots on the ground and what can you see? Because there are zero vantage points. Like you almost don't even need to bring binos because it's flat.
It's like hunting the Oregon coast.
Yeah. It's but so no mount,
or North Idaho,
or North
right?
like when we were in North Idaho, right? And so the guys that I'm going down there with, it is 100%. We know what's in the unit and what they're doing purely based on cameras.
Yeah,
that's the only way. That's the only way to get any data, because you're going off of wallows, rubbing areas, and just guys have been hunting it for 20 years and what information you can get from them. But it's changed it drastically.
Now, do you guys know anybody who says they won't use a trail camera because they don't feel like it's fair or it's cheating? Or
they're like a purist.
I've never heard. I mean, I've never heard anyone say that.
I've heard people. I mean, obviously the what's going on in Idaho right now. They're reviewing possible new.
Knox.
Well, there's a lot of stuff on there, but trail cam use is on that list of things they're reviewing right now. And I think I may have heard something about like Arizona Strip reviewing the ability of like, are they going to allow it or not allow it? So it's I've heard a lot of people talk about it. I've never heard a single person I know say I won't use those because it gives me an unfair advantage.
I have heard people say they wish that it no longer, like it had never been invented, like it was better when people did not know. I will tell you this, that before the advent of game cameras, when I hunted blacktail, I would never, ever have learned. I mean, I would have had people tell me maybe, but I wouldn't. They're such a nocturnal animal that really only moves around much, at least where I grew up hunting. Only really moved around much for like a 3-4 week window during the rut. The rest of the year, I don't know where they are because I've hung cameras up from Timbuktu across the whole place and they're not there. Like I don't know where they're at. I just don't see anything.
They are the ghost of the
Pacific
for sure.
And so when I sit there but once I put cameras out and I saw a giant deer moving around on this place in the dark, during the rut, all of a sudden it opened up a whole new world for me. Yeah. And I started putting real effort into hunting this land that I had never put in before.
Here's what I love about trail cameras, and I don't care if you love them or hate them or where you sit on the spectrum of is there too much technology there or not? It is literally like Christmas.
When you walk
up to it and you open it up.
And it's there, number one.
Oh, yeah. It is there. But the feeling you get when you open up presents on Christmas are the same feeling you get when you run through those pics. And it's sometimes the same disappointment when you're like, oh, man, I really thought that was going to be a good gift.
Or dude, I remember coming home, like, there's a buck we were targeting. And we've seen it 2 years in a row. I couldn't kill it. So this is year 3. And you're like, is he still alive? Is he still alive? And a few weeks goes by and it's still, you haven't seen him yet. And every time I check the game camera card to bring it home, I sit down and my dad and I, it was like an event. We would look at it together at the same time. Right. Like, don't look at him without me. And you just go through like 5,000 pictures. And you're like, it's all does and fawns and coyotes. And you're just kind of waiting. And then finally it's like, yes, he's there. He's alive. And the chase is on. And there's no doubt there's a certain pleasure that comes from capturing that stuff. And you start to see
mountain lions a lot, at water holes. You see that in Arizona, just like
last year
sacking deer at those things.
I had bears on cameras last year that if people knew there were bears in that area, they would flip. And I had no idea there was bears in that area. And we had them for roughly about 3 weeks, and then we never saw them again. But I had never in 7 years of putting up cameras in that area ever seen any type of
bear sign.
Nothing.
So
crazy.
So one of the reasons this came up is recently, Brandon, you came up with a new product, and it's and as you talk, we'll talk about that later. But as you brought up this product, it sparked it's new technology. It's pretty cutting edge, and it's new to the hunting community, hunting world, and you brought it out, and there were some people who saw it who had concerns about this new technology, and I think that that's common. I mean, anytime something new comes out, we all kind of like stop and take stock and go, oh, wait a minute, is this going to make it too easy to kill an animal? Is this going to make it,
right? Yeah, especially something that comes out that is a pivot point. You know what I mean? I believe a catalyst is what I would like to call it. Something that's not an upgrade to something that already exists, but it's a new category. And I don't know. Is this a good time to get into
go ahead and tell us what it is?
No, and I know that this is we wanted to make this about ethics. This isn't about pumping and pushing product and those types of things. But so a few weeks ago, we launched and made available to pre-orders. I mean, this is something that I'll just be honest with you, a lot of money, a lot of time. In fact, years for us to be able to just get it. To where we felt comfortable enough to be able to put it on the pre-order space, to where we know that we're right at the finish line right now. So, let's go ahead and invite those early adopters to be able to,
invest
not necessarily invest, but purchase the product before it gets to full retail, at 40% off. Knowing that we're going to ship in the fall, maybe late fall, but in the fall, it's coming. It's called Breadcrumb. BreadcrumbTech.com is the website. But what a breadcrumb is it's a Bluetooth light and sound knock. It operates just as your normal lighted knock. The accelerometer inside of the PCB board fires the G-forces from when it leaves your string, lets you know to turn the light on, so it operates and functions from that point like a lighted knock. However, the difference maker is once it hits the ground, and from that point also, it begins to emit a signal. And once it emits that Bluetooth signal, you can open the Breadcrumb app on your phone and basically it lets you know if you're hot or cold, if you're close to it. Then you can activate its light function. You can not only is the light solid anymore, you can make it blink. You can make it beep at you if it's buried under brush or grass, dirt, things like that where, it's sound. And I think the big controversial thing is that it's not big controversial, but a few of the people have raised some concerns about, oh, this is crossing the line, is because that it could be used to track an animal. And that's been something that's been a hot button for me. I've really tried to fight that from day one, even in the development of this product. So if you think that you're going to shoot an animal and have enough of an opportunity for the knock to stay in, and then you're going to be able to find it from that standpoint, that's just not what this product is about.
Yeah, but I don't have any problem about for me. So I've shot a lot of animals, and probably it's because of my short draw length and my weak arms. But I don't get a ton of. Sometimes I haven't had great penetration. It's enough to kill the animal, but I've had the arrow sticking out of the animal. Found it 2 days later,
right?
With the arrow still sticking out. So
2 days later is a bad day.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm getting at is. If you have this knock, so you're not putting a tracking device into the animal in terms of, the goal is you're shooting the same arrow that you would shoot any, whether it had this technology in it or not. The arrow's like identical.
Correct.
You hit the animal, it runs off. You got this knock. It doesn't penetrate, doesn't pass through. Normally I get one on elk. It's not as common that I might have it sticking out. Hopefully it doesn't break off or whatever. But it does allow you to, within range, detect where the animal is.
Yeah, and that range is going to be up to 100 yards. I mean, and that's and up to 100 yards, that's your best case scenario. I mean, let's just shoot it like it is. But, I mean, we have tested it to that type of range. That's your best case scenario. But
generally,
but generally, you know where that arrow is going to be, and let's just go back to that for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons that this product was so important for me is that when I was 23 years old, the very first elk hunt I went on, none of you have ever heard the story. Very first elk hunt that I ever went on, I shot a bull in Colorado. I think 34, 35 yards, close enough. Got really nervous. First bull I ever saw come in, and it was a nice bull. Hit him high. One lung, right side. And I don't get a ton of penetration. I've got, I don't know, 18, 19 inches of arrow sticking out. So, but I know I got one lung. I just can tell from the hit. It had it on camera. He runs off. I know everybody in this room knows it's any type of avid hunter that he broke that shaft off at some point in time. It wasn't very long that he broke it off, but I never found it, and I never found him. Mm-hmm. But had I found that arrow, there's a chance that I would have had a fighting chance to find that bull. Mm-hmm. And the sad part of the story is from the time I was 16, 17, started bow hunting to the time I'm 38, there was a 2-year period where I didn't bow hunt. And it was from that day in September in Colorado until 2 years later in October where I finally was like, all right, you got to pick it up. It messed me up that bad that I lost that bull.
Well, I think a wounded animal or an animal we don't recover haunts every single one of us.
Oh, my God.
Especially if it's an animal you've been trying to hunt for like 3 or 4 years, right? Like you've invested some serious time and whatever. I mean, it gives you this opportunity to really kind of get to know a specific animal, which is a different experience than hunting just any animal that opportunistically that comes up. And, but like last year when I was in Alberta with Aaron, he got to within 38 yards, which is his point on with his recurve, drew back, made this perfect shot on this beautiful 186-inch mule deer buck, this giant buck. Arrow hits this buck fatally. Buck jumps up, runs down the canyon, across the coulee, up the other side, and disappears. We wait. We go, after we've waited a while, we go over and try to find it. Buck gets up, runs off. Now, this arrow is still sticking out. You can see it as it runs away, about 6 inches of it out, right? And then it disappears, and it goes. Well, Aaron and I were down in the coulee as it ran out. Well, it just so happened we got a little lucky there because one of the other hunting guys across the way, Jeff Lander, he saw the buck. It went up over the top, hit the flat above, and then cut below us and circled way down, went right back to where it had started from. Aaron and I, being down where we were, we thought the buck ran over and forward, and we would have been in the completely wrong direction, without a doubt. We would have been looking for this thing, and it went another 250 yards. This shot was like liver and lung and everything, and it bled like a stuck pig. It went through the vitals back here. I mean, in all, like, it just should have died, and but it kept pushing. Now, we got lucky because Jeff saw it.
Right.
But if we had this Bluetooth technology, first of all, we could have not bumped it the first time because we would have been within range and known where it was at. But that technology would have been very easy for us had we gone in the wrong direction to be like, you know what, maybe he cut back.
Yeah.
And be able to just walk along the coulee edge, and we would be within your 50 to 100 yards, and we could find that deer, and it was dead. It was almost dead.
Right.
Aaron had to finish it off, but it had been suffering for a few hours now, and I couldn't believe. I mean, I don't know how much that thing weighed, but if you've seen the photos of it, it looks like a cow elk.
It's just gut wrenching too. I mean, you know what I mean? Those moments for us are gut wrenching. I mean,
for me, I pride myself on tracking an animal. You know,
right?
And it's a skill I think that's super valuable, and I like. I've tracked bears and blacktail all in thick country, and it's something I actually like. I'm looking for a broken branch. I'm looking for a little blood. I'm looking for a track. I'm looking for this or that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to change that experience, but after I've exhausted all of that, I want to be able to fall back on technology at that point to help me find it.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't feel any kind of, it's like I did my best with the skills I have, and now I want to find it. And so I guess, for me, when I heard about the technology, I was like, that is very cool, and it would definitely be could be a game changer. It could be the reason. It could be the difference between coming home without anything or coming home or shooting two animals.
Or at least being able to answer, the question and know that you gave it everything.
Yeah, that missing piece of the puzzle.
That's right.
I mean,
the puzzle thing is, I say that all
so
the time.
frustrating. We had a couple situations last year, one in Montana and one in Idaho, where we just couldn't find the arrow.
Yeah.
And we couldn't find any blood either. And it's just this like, what the heck happened?
Yeah.
And we looked for hours and hours and hours. And in one case, actually in both cases, we finally did find the arrow the following day. But, again, like if the animal would have been hit, who knows what would have happened. But being able to like put the pieces of the puzzle together to realize like, okay, it was a clean miss. It was, it was just buried in some sagebrush or something. Or there's guts on it, or there's blood on it, or something to help put the pieces of the puzzle together. Is
most of the time, I'll have a pass through,
Yeah.
But I'd say about a third of the time, the arrow's stuck in the deer.
One of the favorite comments that we've been getting so much since we launched the website and it's on Facebook and stuff now is it says, this doesn't do any good if you get pass-throughs. And I'm like, you're right.
But it does, though.
But I mean,
I was going to say, so some people may just go to the archery shop or their Cabela's or wherever they get their stuff from, buy a dozen arrows, fletch them, put them together, have the bow shop do them, they do them, whatever. And a lot of guys may just throw their arrows in their quiver, and then they just go up, shoot 3 shots, grab those, throw them in their quiver randomly, shoot 3 shots. If you look at the arrows in my quiver, I have them numbered based on how well they tune and shoot. Mm-hmm. So for me, if I do get a pass through, I want my number 1 back. And hopefully number 1 is still intact.
Yeah.
So for me, if I can have that technology to find number 1, that's awesome for me, because if I've got to do a follow-up shot, that's the arrow I want. That's just one way of saying. And then on top of that, my arrows, frick, dude, they're expensive.
No, they are, and you're exactly right. And the one thing about it is, like, you're looking at the app, and I know we're far away from the camera right now, but you can see, like, I have them named. Like, you know what I mean? I have it like breadcrumb number 1 hunting arrow.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, and that's the thing is, like, with your arrows, you don't have to write on them necessarily anymore. You literally can name that specific arrow and know that it's your money maker.
So let's shift gears a little bit, and let's talk about technology and hunting, okay? Because this debate has come up. Aaron and I have hashed it out a few times, and our opinion sometimes isn't that popular. It seems with certain individuals. Now, BMAC, for you, where does technology go too far? Because you hear this comment like this technology crosses the line. What line?
That's a great question, man. I wish I had a good answer for it. I don't know, because it evolves so fast, so soon. I mean, our generation, the 35 to kind of 45-year-old people that we seem to kind of fall within, is such a unique generation. I mean, we grew up with no technology to speak of. I didn't never even have a cell phone until I graduated college, and then the advent of smartphones and all these things, like the experience you mentioned about being able to walk into an Apple store and then suddenly watch your video on a phone.
Yeah, the internet wasn't really invented until 1996. I graduated in 1993.
Yeah, 95 for me. So I didn't have much experience with any of that.
I had a cell phone when I was in high school. I had to have a trailer to use it. And haul it.
Did you have a cell phone or a pager?
I had both. Yeah.
So,
and that was, you was in trouble when Mom would be like, you get that text, like, call me.
911.
Yeah, 911.
So I think for our generation, we're very unique. We've seen this evolution of technology right before our eyes. Think about a lot of the younger folks were born into it, where smartphones already existed. Like things have been more fast forward. Same thing, with the baby boomers. Obviously, even a bigger change, but a lot of those folks aren't as adaptive to technology as our generation seems to be. So, I don't know. It's a weird deal, because kind of like some of your opinions and things we've kind of already talked about, I want to find the animal, right? And so if a shot has been made ethically and legally, I just want to find the animal. Like if I can have a tool, whether that's a dog that would blood trail an animal or a piece of technology, personally, I'm okay with that because I just want to find the animal. That's what's most important to me.
What I think a lot of people don't understand about technology is when you hear the word technology, because the word tech is at the beginning, you're thinking tech. So you're thinking of a Bluetooth and or not. You're thinking electronic. If you look at the definition of technology, it is actually the advancement in science within industry. So science, nowhere in there does it talk about putting a blue chip in a knot.
It doesn't have to be electronics.
Yeah. No, you look at what the science of a drop site, a site that has a
dial.
Okay, based on the speed, calculations, scientific advancements in understanding the flight of an arrow. We now can print out a chart,
a sight tape
that, like on mine, I can shoot out to 135 yards. And as I saw today, if it was 37.6 yards.
Rangefinders.
Dude, wait till we get in rangefinders. I'm going to bring rangefinders up for sure because rangefinders are huge for me.
Not only just rangefinders, but Okay.
But so there is no computer in that site that I use. But yet with other forms of technology that I had, i.e. a rangefinder, I can use that device to shoot all the way up to 135 yards.
And compensate the angle.
Well, that comes out, and
so let go of the rangefinder.
You just want to get into the rangefinder topic. So don't get hung up as you're listening to this podcast of thinking it only has to deal with tech.
Right.
Technology is, even as you talked about, a dog, understanding that a dog's nose has more scent receptors than a human. Through science, we find that out, that you all of a sudden are like, well, I'm going to teach this guy to find sheds or to blood
It's
trail.
very interesting when you read like American Serengeti or a book where they're talking about different dimensions in time. Like you're talking, a million years ago, 500,000 years ago, and so on. And they're like, yes, and humans invented the arrow at that point, or they invented the broadhead that's shaped like XYZ, made out of this stone. And it's like that new technology took them to this next place, and you're like, technology? Yeah, that's a stick, right? But back to your point, Casey. That's
to the actual definition. It's not based on tech; it's based on advancements in science. So as you study something scientifically, that's where your advancement comes. Yeah. And so don't think that that's what technology is putting tech inside of an arrow. Well, it's advancement in
a domesticated
science.
Horse is new technology.
Yeah.
A blood tracking dog, that's new technology. So these things,
like for us, like we just want people to find their arrows. Like, that's it. You know what I mean? Like your arrows are expensive. I mean, there's arrows out there you can drop $300 a dozen on arrows in a minute, and that's not even with broadheads.
I was going to say you got the broadhead, you got everything else that goes with it.
For the top 5% archer that's going to spend that type of money,
So earlier I was talking to Eric Chesser about this, and I asked Eric a little bit.
Where is he?
I'm like, so tell me your thing about this technology. Where are you at? And he's like, technology. It's such a funny discussion among hunters because every hunter is okay with the technology from where they're at. Right. But any technology above where they're at, they get a little bent out of shape over.
Yeah.
But there might be another hunter that's way under them in their technology they choose to use on a hunt. And they're not happy with that dude's technology. But what gets to me is, for me, when these things come up, I get irritated because I think people bring up the technology thing from an ethics or moral standpoint often. And I don't think that ethics or morals are really involved in this, right? Because at the end of the day, you walk out and you kill an elk and bring it home. You just went out and got some meat and came home.
Yeah.
Right? Whether you did that with a 300 Win Mag at 1,000 yards, or whether you did it with a recurve at 30 yards, the point is you went out and got meat and brought it home. And one dude has a tag and a season set aside for that 300 Win Mag, and the other guy has it for 30 yards with his recurve.
I don't really care who does what.
Right.
The point is they're getting meat and they're bringing it home. What I care about is they do it as humanely as possible, that they take the animal's welfare into consideration the most. So for me, in some sense, like with this invention you've got, I like it because I still get to hunt in a way that I feel is primitive-ish. I mean, I got wheels on it, and I'm shooting out to 100 yards and drilling critters, on this
moose
3D
this
range,
thing
yeah.
today. But I'm like, but I still get to experience the act of hunting that in that primitive way, but then having some technology that helps me recover the animal and bring that meat home or reduce an animal's suffering.
Yeah.
Where something didn't quite go right or jump the string or whatever, and now I can go and, hopefully recover it. So for me, like, I look at technology and I think one dude says, I am so against this. Let's say this Bluetooth knock. I can't do this. But the same dude might walk out with a rifle and shoot 1,000 yards on a hunt and think nothing of it. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. And often the argument is it's not fair to the animal. Like, it makes it too easy. And I think, well, what does 1,000 yards with a rifle do?
Right.
I mean, if you want to talk about technology making it unfair to the animal, in my book, the rifle's among the top most unfair things on the planet.
But
You
here's
can
the thing,
snipe
though.
critters from 1,000 yards,
Okay.
from 2,000
So
yards.
this is where I think Brian brought me on the podcast because I am a long range shooter,
You're a long range guy.
guy, and then I also am on the other end of the spectrum where I shoot a.
He won't shoot a compound bow.
Actually, I
He shot one today.
He just started
You
again.
did.
I put it together 2 weeks because I drew a really good tag. I will get shamed for my trad brethren. But when you have 17 points on the line,
Yeah.
you don't use
Yeah.
a stick.
Besides,
you have a line.
wheel
There's
bows
exceptions.
are
Yeah.
fun. Are they not?
They're fun. They're not
today.
as fun. I'll be honest. They're
Yeah.
not as fun. But so let's talk long range real quick, okay? Because
Yeah.
that is super controversial, and this is why I love this conversation. Because anybody that says, "Oh, you're unethical," you
Let me
shoot
check my
you sh-
camera
Oh, you're
real
good.
quick.
You shoot long range, and I
Sure,
say
record button's good.
you need to do it with a bow, and I said, "Oh, well, I actually hunt with a stick bow," so it kind of shuts them up real quick because they're like, "Oh, well, I shoot a compound." So, but here's the deal, okay? So I, in my backpack right here, have a rangefinder that I used all day today. That rangefinder has the ability to go out past 2,400 yards and give accurate ranges within an inch. Okay. Inside that rangefinder as well is a weather station that has the ability of where I'm standing at that point on the earth. It's giving me the barometric pressure.
Mhm.
It's giving me the humidity. It's giving me all the calculations that I need to be able to make an accurate shot. Okay. Because of science and advancements in technology, people have found that just by pointing at 1,000 yards, there's other things like the rotation of the earth and humidity, barometric pressure,
Right.
different things that I talked about
That affect the
that affect the
trajectory
flight of the bullet.
Mhm.
Okay. So when you don't take those things into account, you're not giving that animal or that target or whatever it is its best chance at being hit. So what's interesting is technology is advancing in rangefinders, and that's why I wanted to bring rangefinders up too. I remember when I had my first Nikon rangefinder that was about the size of a brick and could range like 50 yards. Okay.
Mhm.
Didn't have angle compensation. Didn't have the bells and whistles. Actually, it was a Bushnell is what it was. It wasn't a Nikon.
Why are you
But
trying to throw Nikon under the bus?
I'm not throwing Nikon.
I'm not even sponsored by Nikon.
I'm
just
not
saying,
either.
damn.
I just remember I could afford this Bushnell one that I mean, it was probably 4 or 5 years old. But anyways, from the fact that was 50 yards, no angle compensation, no barometric pressure, no nothing into it, to this rangefinder that I have now that fits nicely in my hand, and within that fast, I have a reading and I have exactly the information that I need to put into my scope to be able to take a shot at basically any distance, that I can range. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Some people can look at that and say that is absolutely cheating. That is whatever. Okay. Here's the deal. When I go out and hunt, I can shoot with my rifles anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 yards. They're built to do that. And I love shooting 1,000, 1,200, different odd ranges out to usually about 1,500 yards is where we'll shoot all the time. It's so much fun. Do you know why? Because taking a 325 yard shot is like taking a 5-yard shot with your compound, because you are so trained and skilled in the ability to take all these other factors,
Right.
that it makes that harder, or that shorter shot more.
It's too easy.
No, it's not that it's too easy. It gives that animal a better chance. I don't agree with the guys that say, okay, I'm at 750 yards and my goal is to kill an animal at 1,000, so I'm going to back up 250 yards. No. For me, in the way that I hunt is, do I practice out to 1,500 yards? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I also try and get as close as possible. Mm-hmm. Last year on one of the elk that I shot, the closest I could possibly get with light fading was 505 yards.
Right.
But I had made 1,500-yard shots with that gun. So to take that 500-yard shot was boom. And guess what? I have meat in my freezer, and it was an awesome experience for everybody that was involved. And I obtained my goal, which was I wanted meat.
Yeah.
And so so for the individual, I think what it comes down to when it comes to, things like rangefinders, technology, scopes, and all this crazy stuff, how well do you know your equipment? How well do you know, just because you can dial on your bow to 92 yards, do you really know how to properly execute that shot? Do you know what's going to happen with the wind based off of like what we saw
Well, I think
today?
that's where the ethics discussion can come in, right? It's like, it's not whether you use the technology or don't use the technology. That's really not an ethics question to me. It's really, are you proficient with your tool and can you make a humane kill?
So you don't just pull your weapon, whatever it is, gun, bow, knife, spear, whatever, out of the garage, throw it in the back of the truck, go in the hills and hunt.
Now
you need to have.
I agree. I totally agree with that, and I totally see your point, and I agree. It doesn't matter how you choose to kill an animal, what tools you choose to use to go out and get that meat.
Probably not going to do it with a spear. Just going to throw that out there.
I'd recommend that you wouldn't.
I'm going to say no spear hunting.
Not that but whatever weapon you choose, whether it is a spear or not, because you're so whatever the weapon though, I feel like it's your efficiency with it. It's that's where the ethics come into play. But there's this other discussion, which is fair chase.
Right.
So fair chase. Anybody want to throw out the definition what they think fair chase is?
Man, let me just tell y'all something. So, like, when it comes to Western animals, like, I am 1,000% fair chase. Like, I am all in 110%.
What does it mean?
I mean, you know what it means. It means the ability for an animal to jump a fence. It means the ability for an animal to roam freely as they're designed to do. What I'm getting at, though, is, hang on, I know, but what I'm getting at, though, is like, I've been to South Texas. I have some friends down there that have very well-managed deer herds behind a high fence. And
on how many acres?
Bro, there's so many deer in South Texas. Like, it's like, I'm not mad at you. Like, put them behind the fence. Like, I don't want to die, like, driving down the highway. So that conversation becomes very real when you get in places like that.
But fair chase means more than whether it can escape, whether there's a fence or not a fence.
How? Give me an example. Like, what do you mean?
Fair chase means that you're giving the animal a reasonable chance of escape.
To me, if it's an enclosure from a Western migratory animal, that's not fair chase. I mean, that's me.
And I would agree.
Yeah.
What about this whole ideal of giving the animal the biggest chance of escape? Giving them a fair chance at escape.
So do we need to whistle at them?
Yeah, do you want me to be like,
coming
run?
for you?
Okay,
like,
run.
is that?
Well, I'm just throwing it out there because that is some of that sticks in the craw for some people. They're like, you just went out and shot an elk at 1,000 yards. 500 yards.
550.
And you'll have and you have someone come along and say, that's not hunting. That's grocery getting, right? That's not hunting. You just went out and the animal has no chance of escape. At 550 yards, you walked out. It doesn't know you're there. It can't smell you. Can't see you. You're at such a range, and you just sniped him, right? Sniped him.
It's easy to see that when you're not boots on the ground. And actually, Brandon was on that hunt.
Yeah.
And so what happened was
I couldn't get there.
No, I
Well,
literally.
before you go there, I'm just saying that that is some of that perception, right? It's not
Oh,
fair.
absolutely.
Scared the hell out of those elk.
But
before
I was
you
going to
kill
say
them.
I had a shot at
Yeah.
350 yards,
Mhm.
and what happened was as I went down to get down into position to take a shot, I broke a branch, and all those elk spun, looked, and they took off, and I thought they were gone.
Yeah.
Thought they were gone. They happened to pop up in the next little opening, 500 yards away, and so for me it was last night of the hunt, last 15 minutes,
And I only bring that up because the next stage is this trad guy is looking at a compound guy, and he's like, "Hey, yo, dude, you just shot that elk at 75 yards with this sliding bow with this ultra high tech compound. That's not fair chase. You're not giving that animal that chance of getting away." And it's like it's this cascade event.
I have a hard time with whether that's in the definition of fair chase or not, letting this animal get away. Like, my goal is not just to throw horns on the wall.
Mhm.
My
Exactly.
personal goal is I want meat. So I'm going to be as stealthy as possible. I'm going to get as close as possible. I'm not there to notch a number on my belt like, all right, I got that elk at 505. I got the next one at 643. Like, that's
Right.
not me,
Right,
okay?
right.
I'm not saying there's not guys out there that are like that. But for me to say, a 75-yard shot with a bow, a compound,
Mhm.
a 20-yard shot with a traditional bow, or a 200-yard shot with a rifle, I say nobody knows what went into that point for that hunter to get to that position
Mhm.
that I don't think they need to feel like, okay, I'm at 75. I really need to cut that to 40. And if you look around and you're like, well, for me to get to 40, that means I've got to drop down here, all this rock, and then I got to get back up there. And then, oh, that's right, the wind's going to be not in my favor over there. There's so many factors that go into it that you weren't there.
Yeah.
So you can't judge that individual.
Speaking of judging,
Yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, that's where, man, we see it a lot, right? We, in maybe in general in life, and social media has made judging become very, very easy.
Yeah.
But man, I guess maybe I don't care. But if it makes you happy, it's legal, and you enjoy it.
Well, and that's,
you know what I mean.
That's
Like, go
kind of why I
just
was bringing
do
it up, was because it's actually pretty ludicrous to argue about fair chase or
Right.
whether you're giving
Yeah.
the animal, because at the end of the day, you're going out to kill an animal, bring it home to eat it, and one guy's idea of what he wants to get out of that experience can be totally different from the next. You have a guy who works on a farm. He's like, dude, I just want to spend 3 hours out on a opening day, and I want to tag out, and I want to drive out there with my backhoe, pick it up, and take it back to my shop and get it done. And then you have the guy that's like sharpening broadheads he made for himself out of chiseled stone,
Cameron Haynes.
who wants to go out and have like this most epic and difficult, challenging experience. Everybody has their own, can get their own experience, and I think that's where when you start injecting your opinion on technology, you're imposing your experience and the experience you want to have on your hunt on someone else.
So like someone said,
That's when I get all pissed off.
Yeah, like somebody said, like we talk about this specific person this week, and whatever, saying this crossed the line for me.
So, whenever any new technology comes out, whether it be a drone in the sky, which are not legal to use during hunting season in almost every state, right? Or it's this Bluetooth tracking ability with this knock. Whenever something new comes out, there is a lot of debate, and there are people who immediately have some concerns around this technology being abused.
Yeah.
And I understand that. It's like the same can be said for guns. There's a lot of people who are like, I would like all guns out of the public hands because someone might abuse this technology. Right? I mean, that's the anti-gun
I had this
owner
argument this week. I mean, somebody
motto.
quoted me or not quoted me, but made a quote on social media that said, "Can't believe that this product is beyond unethical." And I'm like, "How's it beyond unethical?" Like, I mean, I asked him back on social media. I said, "Then you must clearly be in favor of gun control." It's not related in any form or fashion. It's not gun control. I'm like, no, it is, because you're saying that this product that's been created to help people find their arrows is beyond unethical because you think people may use it in an unethical way.
Right.
And I'll tell you right
Which
now, I'll
is-
say this. If you're going to take a shot at 90 yards because you think you're going to take our product and it's going to stay in the animal and that's how you're going to find it, you're a dumbass.
Well, that's what I was going to say is
there's no other way for me to say it.
the fact that that
I
individual.
want you as a
Tell
customer.
me what you
I-
really
I
feel.
want you as a customer, and I love you. But
you're
that's
abusing
not-
the product. You're not
you're-
using it in
that's
the way
not-
it was
yeah.
intended.
It's not.
And-
This isn't going to make me take a shot any different. No, I am not going to change one thing about the
And
way
that's
I
because
hunt.
you're looking at this product purely in the way that it was created.
But one of the big things that let me tell you about this. One of the coolest things about this product is its search party function. So let's say that all four of us are in hunting camp together. Brian, lucky you. You just shot the deer of a lifetime, 200 inch. You hit him a little high, one lung, not a ton of penetration. You got arrows sticking out.
Not a lot of blood trail.
Not a lot of blood trail. And we just seen him leave. We don't know where he's at. We think we're on track, but we're not 100% sure.
He just went over a ridge and pooped
right.
on your dreams.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And you're back disgusted, and you knew better than to push him. So when you get back to camp, we've all downloaded the app beforehand because we have had this discussion already.
Mm-hmm.
But you can now share that knock with everybody in camp. And all four of us can go out and try to locate your arrow. So now all four of us can aid and truly aid in not only try to find a blood trail or a track, but now we can try to find that arrow that I'm going to just tell you, presumptively, he's probably broken off, and we may not find your deer because it was, bad things happen.
Yeah.
You didn't make a bad shot, but he took a step forward or took a step back or did something.
Or it's going to take you right to the freaking deer, and you're
Or
like,
it could
hallelujah,
take you-
because finding that sucker without that technology.
Finding that is super important. However, I'm just telling you, I'm going back to it, and I
Mm-hmm.
know what you're saying, and you know that because I truly am. For me, like I am super anti putting a device in an animal to track.
Yeah, there's
I
been
just-
a few other inventions where there's an actual GPS tracking device that gets embedded in an animal when you shoot it.
Yeah, with a barb or something.
Dude,
like
you
that.
can like see it from like Google Earth. Like it
Yeah.
never, you could see it a year from whatever. To me, I think that crosses the line. Like it's like privacy.
Yeah.
It almost
Right.
is like
Right? Like,
yeah.
Good for your kids, not for your deer and elk, right?
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute. I wouldn't want someone tracking me that way.
Yeah.
But it's different to me when it's in an arrow like this. You're shooting it exactly the same. And in the intent with that arrow is to kill the animal. And in general, the arrow passes through most of the time with modern technology. But still, the intent is to kill that animal. And usually, I would say most of the time, it does. And finding it, I saw Game of Inches with Rockhouse Motion. And toward the end of the film, they shoot a buck with a lighted knock at last light, and they hit it, and you could see that arrow as it goes way off, and then the deer dumps over, and there's a flashing light that shows them you can walk right to it. That's pretty cool technology. And if a dude doesn't want to use it because it's too easy or he feels like it doesn't suit his hunt,
because he just wants to waste $60 arrows like it's his job.
now you're judging somebody else.
Yeah, don't judge.
But yeah, don't use it.
Don't use it.
Here's what I like about technology, and here's what I like about if a competitor was to come in your space or anything like that. It gives you options.
I mean,
Right? You can choose whether or not to use it. Do it how you want to do it. But just like you said, if you don't want to hunt with it, you don't have to.
But if you're bent out of shape over someone using like a lighted knock like this, I think you have to. It's just there's some hypocrisy there because are you using a rangefinder? Do you hunt with a rifle? Do you shoot long distances?
Do you drive a side by side to get up the hill?
Do you take a helicopter to the top of the mountain, or do you?
If it's available every time.
Did you put boots on or did you go barefoot?
Well, I mean,
Did you put camo on or were you
well,
wearing
I'm
a
thinking
loincloth?
like a GPS.
If the helicopter is
people
available.
people use radios.
Yeah.
In certain states it's legal, some it's not.
Yeah.
And people in those states that there are individuals who are like, yeah, I would never use a radio because I don't think it gives the animal the right chance, or it's not the type of hunt that I want to have. And you have other people who that's their specialty.
Yeah.
They got a buddy on a radio who's like talking them in, and that's how they get their animal every year. And for you to judge that guy when you go out maybe and shoot something with 500 yards with the rifle, I'm like, there's all these different technologies at our disposal.
And I will.
I would rather have hunters just be perfectly okay with someone else's use of technology. Yeah. Just make the hunt what you want for you.
Yeah, exactly.
I just want to find the animal, right? Because especially out west, early archery season, which this technology would be in play, a lot of that, you have the heat factor, right? For me, like there's a time frame to be able to retrieve the meat. I don't care about the antlers near as much as I care about retrieving of the meat.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a window there. And when it gets hot out, that window gets short
fast.
Yeah.
And I always say, even during rifle season, I tell people all the time, from the time you pull the trigger on an elk, you are on the clock. And I mean, it's running fast.
And that's the worst feeling.
Yeah.
To not be able to find it, or to find it maybe a week later.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I've got multiple experiences where there was a delay in finding an animal, and we were right on top of it.
Yeah.
My buddy Anthony shot his one of his biggest bulls in Mount Emily, and we were walking back and forth by that animal a full day in the blazing sun. And had we had that, we walked right past it like 6 yards, but it's just it was so thick you couldn't see it. Same thing has happened to me with blacktails in Oregon. Thankfully I was shooting them in like November, so it was a little colder and they kept okay. But I mean, they're right there in a pile of blackberry bushes and ferns, and it's so thick you can't find them. And that's one thing that has always bothered me. In Oregon, and I've said this many times, is not being able to use a mechanical broadhead, because for blacktail, you shoot one of those with a fixed blade, you only get so big a hole with a fixed blade.
Yeah.
Right? And when it punches through, and it can be a perfect shot, and you double lung it and you hit it through the heart even, that deer, because the hole's still so small, even with a 4-blade broadhead, that thing can run 100 to 200 yards like that, especially if it's downhill and you just go. Well, 100 yards in the Oregon coast, it might as well be a
10
mile.
miles, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've always been frustrated, because when you hit one with an expandable broadhead or mechanical broadhead, sometimes I've seen those things get hit and go 6 feet and fall over because there's just so much blood loss. And so that's one of those things where I think there are a lot of blacktails that are hit
that are never found,
because they, even with an excellent shot, they can run a long distance in thick country. This technology would be brilliant, because, and then a lot of times it's not that you didn't do your due diligence either. It was pouring rain.
Yeah.
The blood is gone.
That's another one
That's
we
another
haven't
gone.
talked about.
Yeah.
Which is
weather
huge.
conditions,
it's not like
especially
you
in Oregon.
did anything wrong per se, except hunt in the rain, which you don't really have much choice.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the best time to kill a blacktail,
Yeah.
right?
So with this, I mean, it would be such a relief to be able to, the only thing I would say there is most likely it's going to blow right through the animal. Most of the time I've had it pass through.
Yeah.
But there were a couple times where it did not, and it would have been really nice to have that technology.
That's exactly right, and I think it's for that. I've had people say, "Well, 9 times out of 10, I get pass-throughs." Well, I'm for your number. I'm for one. You know what I mean? I'm here for that one time that didn't make you 10 out of 10.
Well, and think about it. You're talking about a lot of hunters hunt deer.
Yeah.
Right. That's what every state has deer.
Yeah.
Not every state has elk.
No.
And elk are a big animal.
Yeah.
And when you stick an elk, it's common, at least in my experience, it's very easy for an arrow not to penetrate, not to get a pass through on an elk.
Yeah.
Especially if it's quartering away, or if it's a frontal shot, or lots of different. Now they break off often, especially if it's thick. But in open country, I've seen those arrows. They don't break off. They don't run by a tree or anything. They'll stay on the animal.
Jordan and I were elk hunting a couple of years ago, and I had the tag and had a bull come in at 40 yards in a very open sagebrush area, and I shot him. Perfect shot. If you were to draw, an elk and say, where do you want to hit him? You'd point right where I shot him. And so we're just like, sweet, we're excited. We walk over to, he runs off, and we walk over to where I shot him to try and pick up some blood trail and nothing, So we're like, all right, well, maybe it's going to bleed a little later. So, you do the little and start circling, trying to figure out where the blood's going to start. And 45 minutes later, still no blood. And, about an hour later, and I'm talking, this is wide open. Hour later, Jordan's like, got your arrow. And it was about 60 yards from and it was about the last 4 inches of the arrow, just as he had kicked back at a point, shoulder snapped it. And from that point, we were like, sweet. We know roughly the direction we need to go. Yeah. So from there, we were hands and knees, and we found one blood speck about every 20, 30 yards. And then all of a sudden, we started to get into some timber, and boom, he was piled up under timber. If we had never found
that arrow,
I thought about that. Like breadcrumb, it's so creative.
You love it, but like you love it.
But like you do get an arrow and it sticks in a bull, let's say, and he runs 100 yards, 150 yards into some cover, and the arrow snaps off, and then he goes another 50 yards from that point. You're still, with this technology, it's like you may not. It could be. You could have nowhere to begin where to look, right? But because you have that arrow busted off at some place closer to where the animal last was, you go, oh, he went down this canyon, not this canyon. It's just
that's that piece of the puzzle we kind of touched on earlier.
Yeah, me and Brian have talked about that.
Little piece that could help point you or define the next step.
But like Casey's testimonial is perfectly exactly why this product was created. I don't know. I think a lot of times people are against something just to be against something. You know what I mean? That's people don't like Luke Bryan. Luke Bryan's a really nice guy.
He's got great genes, supposedly.
He's got great genes. Luke Bryan's a really nice guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I'm just saying, it's.
No, I think there are genuine concerns, though.
No doubt.
I'll tell you with our product.
Mm-hmm.
People, it's funny because.
What's your product?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Mountain Ops?
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, I guess it's Casey speaking for all of you on iTunes and Stitcher. One of the most common questions we get is, "Hey, how many milligrams of caffeine per serving?" And so, we'll tell them, depending upon the product, 100, 200, whatever it is. Well, how much can I take? Well, you're going to have to kind of figure that out yourself. But there's a certain amount that you're going to be taking too much, and the thing is you can use and abuse just about any product. Anything. You can take something that was built purely and you can abuse it.
Yeah.
You take too much Yeti, I'll tell you what, it's not going to be a good experience. But that's the thing is, I just bring my product into it, but there's so many products out there that
don't take Yeti and Blaze at the same time.
Yeah. We call that the nuke.
Yeah, I know. I've been there.
But there's so many products out there, Nox, supplements, whatever, that you can use and abuse that product. But that's probably not how it was built.
Yeah.
Even going to the bow slider thing, Mm-hmm.
The what?
You can slide it. You can dial your sight on your bow
to 100,
or 130 or whatever.
Right now, I can dial mine and clear at 145.
Right. So you could.
Just crazy.
People could go out and shoot an animal at that distance that have never practiced it and, frankly, are just hoping it hits. Right. Mm-hmm. They could do it.
You can abuse that tool.
Right. Yeah. It's not intended for that, and I think all of us that have hunted have some kind of a conscious would never do that unless we were really confident and we practiced a lot.
And that's what I was going to say. And then we'll wrap this up because I know we're probably starting to bore people to death. But somebody said, this is beyond unethical, and just know that people are going to abuse it. And I think that person's wrong. I really do. I don't know that a single person is going to abuse it. And they may. I'm not saying that, but I'm not gonna throw people that don't exist in that box yet and say that somebody's going to abuse this product to try to use it to track an animal.
The classic example of that is a gun. It's someone can abuse it.
Yeah,
it's technology but
it's not the instrument though. It's the individual.
Right.
That's right.
I'm not for banning technology or stopping the development of technology because of a fear that someone will abuse it. Because then
we take away cars, right? Yeah. They might drive recklessly. Let's take away cars. Let's take away guns. Let's take away drones. You just go, the list goes on all the things that someone might abuse, and pretty soon you can't function.
Yeah.
So to me, when you get into this stuff, if you want to make a difference or influence something, let's say that this knock is not your thing, right? And you have a viewpoint on it. From my perspective, my goal is not to ban the knock. My goal is to share with people a way that I like to hunt that I think is probably more inspiring, or you'll get more reward out of it, or is better, right? Like I think you need to change the hearts and minds of the people. If you really strongly believe that shooting a recurve is life changing, then get out there and but don't ban compounds.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, look, here's the deal. We're all hunters, and we all need to stop bashing each other for the type of bow that we shoot, the compound bow that we shoot, or the non-compound bow, or the gun, or the pistol, or whatever it is.
The camo, the boots, whatever brand you
just be ethical
use
and
and wear,
follow your state's game laws. Be ethical. Hunt in your area that you have a tag for. Don't hunt at night. You know what I mean?
Right.
Follow the laws. Be an ethical person. Do those types of things. And I think that pretty much.
Yeah, because I think if you boil it all down, at the end of the day, we're going out to get meat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to impact the environment in the best way possible while consuming life, right? Life eats life. And so you're out there, you're doing your thing, and to me, the goal among all of that is to do it in the most humane way possible. Like you said, about finding the meat.
Yeah.
Right there is, you don't want to waste that. Nothing in the wild goes to waste, right?
Oh, yeah.
But it goes to waste for me. Like,
That's right.
I don't get to consume it. My season's over, and now I got to go buy beef at the store, which isn't the end of the world, but it's not really what I wanted,
I just think, going back to what I had mentioned earlier, if we just spend a little bit more time worrying about us as individuals and what we can do, like you mentioned, to be positive, to be an influential person, or inspire somebody to do something, inspire new people to get into hunting and try something different, like focus on that versus worrying so much about what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Like, life is going to be so much better. Like, just accept different stuff. Like, it's okay if somebody shoots 1,000 yards. It's okay if somebody does trap.
I just want people to be able to find the arrow. and to wrap up in my shameless plug, but no, I mean, it's a really cool product. I hope you guys will all shoot it.
It's Breadcrumb Tech.
Breadcrumbtech.com. And so, yeah, the Bluetooth, the lighted, operates like your normal standard lighted knock, has a Bluetooth tracking component inside of it, and also it has sound capabilities as well that you can activate from your phone.
Well, that was one other thing that you had mentioned. There's more technology on the way, and one of them, like, one year I hunted this elk with Anthony. We ditched our packs on the ground, and then we dropped 3,000 feet in elevation, and killed an elk at the bottom.
In fact, everybody's going to be so hung up on the Bluetooth knock because it's like a catalyst. It's so pivotal and new. But the coolest product that I think everybody should have is our location marker. The location marker that we have is the first of its kind, like truly long range Bluetooth trackable. When I say long range, I mean 150 yards. And for Bluetooth signal, that's a long ways.
Yeah.
But like you said, you want to drop your pack, get light, get quiet, get fast. And we all do that. You know what I mean? We all
ditch it and
our
you
packs,
run.
You know what I mean? Our packs cause
by that
more
one
contact
juniper.
with.
Yeah, by that one
That's right.
juniper, and then you come back and there's like 100.
You've been gone 3 miles, and you come back to find your pack. By the way, with your tag in it.
Dude, I've taken my boots off and then couldn't find them for a day.
Yeah. So, but with this location marker, now all you have to do is get back in that general vicinity and press a button on your phone. It'll light at you. It'll flash at you. It'll let you know that it's there. You can see it on your phone.
It's kind of like a tile.
It's like it is. Yeah. We partner with the people at Pebblebee, actually, which is a tile competitor. Pebblebee helped us advance the technology and bring it to the outdoor space because we really think hunters can use it. You can use it to find your, backpack, your side by side, your deer stand. If you know what I mean. If you're a deer stand hunter, you want to find in the dark at 5 a.m. That one spot you want to be at 5 a.m. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
When you're climbing up a mountain, whatever. I mean, you leave it there. You get close. It's completely waterproof and runs off AA batteries, and you're good to go.
What's the retail cost on this stuff?
$39. Basically, both of those are at the same price point. The Knock right now is a $39 product, but right now for early adopters, it's off. It's 40% off.
And that's
if you
how
want
many
pre-order,
for 39?
39 is one.
One for
Yeah,
39.
yeah,
Okay.
one.
Are you going to do multiple options? Or?
Yeah, we will have a 3-pack and a 6-pack.
Okay.
Those options like that. A 6-pack will be $199. So $199 for 6 Bluetooth trackable Knocks, and then the location marker is about the same. So
That's cool.
the location marker you can't live without. It's
Well,
funny
I was
because
just going to say I've got a $1,000 Kafaru pack, and then I don't know,
and then $3,000 worth of
with
stuff in
the
it.
crap in
Yeah.
it, so it's like I can spend $40.
Yeah, I can spend $40 to put something on. So just for the safety factor of knowing that
I
knowing
like
that
that.
on there.
Backup deal.
Well, not only that. I mean,
'Cause
you
I
can
wanna
you can
be-
throw one in the plane. I mean, this is not really necessary because there's nothing you can do about it. But maybe it makes you a little more comfortable. It's in your gun case, it's in your bow case or your checked luggage. Once it gets on the plane and you know that it should be on the plane and you're taxiing, you're like, okay, I can see. You know what I mean? It's picking up. There's a signal there, so you know that your bag is.
No, there's a lot of uses for that, for sure. For sure.
So I appreciate you having me on. My wife probably thinks I died in a car wreck right now, and I'm gonna because we've been here for a while.
No,
So
dude,
I'm sure I'm gonna be in a ton of trouble. But breadcrumbtech.com. Don't be mad at us because we love you. So just go check it out, and I mean it's just it's a cool piece of tech. And
No, I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
I've run it by a bunch of people, and so far the response I've received has been, every guy I've talked to has been, heck yeah, that makes. I mean, talk about a game changer trying to recover something. Can make all the difference.
And most of the time, it's going to be just simply recovering your arrow because you're typically going to miss or something. It's going to be in practice.
Yeah.
That's when it's really, you know what I mean? Like, being able to find your arrows and know that they're there. So
thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it as always. Yeah, thanks
Stay
very
gritty.
much. Good stay gritty. I don't know what that means.
Gritty.
All right, I'm scared to even turn my phone on right now. I don't know what's going to happen.
In 1907, only 41,000 elk remained in North America, and in 1950, only 12,000 pronghorn remained. Today, there are more than 1 million elk and 1.1 million pronghorn. Why? Because hunting is conservation. In 1937, hunters actually requested an 11% tax on guns, ammo, bows, and arrows to help fund conservation. That tax so far raised more than $8 billion for wildlife conservation. Altogether, hunters pay more than $1.6 billion a year for conservation programs. No one gives more. It's obvious that hunters care about animals, and yet we actively hunt and kill them. Many people cannot understand this dichotomy. How can we both care about animals and also kill them? It's a question that I challenge all of you to consider. Here is an excerpt from the Gritty Bowmen film, Alberta, with a quote from Fred Bear that describes my feelings on this subject. The first shot on this buck was fatal, and it cleanly pierced his vitals, but he didn't go down. I hate to see animals suffer, and when possible, I will always shoot them again if I have the opportunity. I have tremendous respect for this buck and his will to survive. He didn't go down easy, and I have mixed emotions about that. At times like this, I am reminded of a quote by Fred Bear, which somewhat describes my thoughts on this matter. Quote, I have always tempered my killing with respect for the game pursued. I see the animal not only as a target, but as a living creature with more freedom than I will ever have. I take that life if I can, with regret as well as joy, and with the sure knowledge that nature's way of fang and claw and starvation are a far crueler fate than I bestow. I do not hunt for the joy of killing, but for the joy of living, and the inexpressible pleasure of mingling my life, however briefly, with that of a wild creature that I respect, admire, and value. We can argue as much as we like, but the fact is, hunting is man's oldest and most successful try at life. Every human being is alive today because our ancestors hunted. So it's a relatively new phenomenon for people to regard hunting as a cruel and frivolous activity that has no worth outside of personal gratification for the hunter. The funny thing is, hunting has increased my appreciation for wild animals and wild places, not decreased it. And as I watch society lose its ties to wildlife and conservation, I feel my bond with nature grow ever stronger in direct correlation to my time spent hunting. I understand now more than ever that hunting is the greatest hope for creating the next generation of true conservationists. Never stop sharing your passion for hunting in the outdoors. Our wild animals and wild places depend on it. As always, good luck on your hunts and stay gritty.
This is Ty Stubblefield, and you're listening to the Gritty Bowmen.
Gritty Bowmen.